Hey, it's Test Drive Thursday on Morning Drive, the latest and greatest in equipment, plus a special guest showing you what to look for when getting fit for your new stuff.
World number one, Dustin Johnson, is back in action this week. And what can you learn from the way he warms up with his wedges? Coming up, I'm going to show you.
And are you in the market for a new putter? We'll tell you what putter is best for you, as well as go over different types of grips, all to get you rolling it better on the green.
And speaking of rolling, Morning Drive on a Test Drive Thursday rolls on right now.
Good Thursday to you. Welcome into Morning Drive Studio A as opposed to Studio AP for 3 hours on this Thursday morning. Whit Watson, Charlie Reimer, Paige McKenzie in studio. Special guests all morning long. It is May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day. More on that momentarily. May the 4th be with you. But first, two things. Number one, the golf cart has a lot of juice. It sits in our lobby here at Golf Channel throughout the year, and no one ever actually drives that thing. It's got a little juice in it.
And I will say, I don't know, Charlie, but Bailey and I ended up on the back of that golf cart. I don't know what that says about you being such a gentleman this morning.
You should have been driving.
The way you drove it might
no
not
one
get
can top
anybody
that.
to drive it ever again anyway.
It is May the 4th, International Star Wars Day, as in May the 4th be with you. Jimmy Walker is a big Star Wars fan. This from his wife, Erin Walker. All of his dreams came true today. For those of you celebrating, however you celebrate, happy May the 4th. And indeed, May the 4th be with you. You guys big Star Wars fans over the years?
Not really.
No, not a Star Wars person,
Nope.
Charlie?
You know, I love it. I like science fiction. 1977, the original Star Wars came out. I probably saw it about 40 times. But, you know, Jimmy Walker's an astrophotographer.
Yes,
so
he
it's
is.
sort of a nice little transition for somebody who photographs the stars to be a big fan of Star Wars.
It is Let's Play Golf Week all week long. If you've watched Morning Drive this week, you knew that. What's happening now on Morning Drive? Let's Play Golf Week continues. We had Bring a Beginner Tuesday. We had Winnings Wednesday. Now Test Drive Thursday. We encourage you to get out there and try before you buy. It's the importance of demoing golf clubs, getting fit properly before you commit to buying new equipment. It is the first week of May, so for a lot of folks around the country, maybe it's the first week you can get out and actually play golf after some bad weather over the winter time. Give me some keys, and we'll spend some time on this page, but some keys when you're looking to go out and buy some new equipment. What should you look for?
I think the biggest thing is know what you're trying to achieve with your new equipment. Are you trying to get more accuracy off the tee, more accuracy into the greens, or are you trying to create more distance? Because I think that'll give you a direction when you do test your equipment of what you are looking for.
Or you could be just looking for something that looks really cool.
Something cool.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's some really cool stuff out there, but we're going to have a master fitter in a little bit later on in the show. I highly recommend that when you start looking at golf clubs, whether it's putters, wedges, irons, drivers, anything in between, even the golf ball, spend some time with a fitter. That time you spend will pay off by making sure what you have fits you properly.
Totally agree. The days of buying off the rack are over. You wouldn't buy a suit without trying it on. Why would you spend money on golf clubs without trying them out? Also happening now, world number one Dustin Johnson back on course this week. He missed the Masters with that back injury. He's won his last 3 PGA Tour starts. Last player to win 4 straight starts, Tiger Woods, 2008. Johnson in the field at the Wells Fargo Championship today, and he spoke about his comeback earlier in North Carolina.
The only time it was, maybe tough was just watching the tournament, but after watching it, or after Sunday, it's been fine. Last Friday probably was the first day I hit balls and didn't feel it, but no, it was just bruised badly. I went and had an MRI, it was clear, no issues, but I just, bruised it really bad. It's been so long, but obviously, I was, on a good roll, playing really, best golf of my career, leading into Augusta. It's definitely, I've had a lot more time off than I'd like to have had, but excuse me, still feel like I'm swinging really well.
recall it was a freak accident in a rental home in Augusta, Georgia. He walked out to the first tee at the Masters, decided he could not go, turned around, walked back to the clubhouse. We've not seen him since. You will see him today. Dustin Johnson playing with Davis Love III and Bill Haas. Interesting, Charlie, to hear him say that only recently was he able to make a swing and not feel it. That's a good thing for a golfer. It's a bad thing to think about it took this long to where he didn't feel some kind of a twinge taking a golf swing.
Well, the biggest problem he's going to have is controlling all that adrenaline that he has. I think I might be a little more excited than DJ if I was #1 in the world, teeing it up for the first time after coming off of that freak injury. But, you know, DJ I've never really been around anybody like DJ. You know, he early on, he had so much tragedy on the golf course, losing golf tournaments, some sort of weird things happened to him. And all the people close to him said, oh, he'll be fine. It doesn't bother him. And I thought, yeah, we'll see. Well, it didn't bother him. He's the most unbothered golfer I've ever seen in my life. So why is coming back from an injury going to bother him? I don't think it will at all. I mean, he keeps it simple. He goes out and hits a golf ball a long way. He cleans up, you know, on the greens and around the greens. I mean, that's the formula. That's what he does, and he's not going to overthink anything. We
saw him talk a little bit yesterday as well with Todd Lewis the night before, and how he didn't really have a lot of expectations, but then he had this wry smile about, yeah, but I mean, I've been hitting it pretty good.
Right.
It looks pretty good for this week. So I think for him this week, I'm excited to see what he's got to offer. I mean, he is coming off of 3 straight. I know there's been a huge 5-week gap, but Charlie, we remember back in 2012 where he took a 3-month break, came back and won his second event out. So I'm not too worried about him being able to knock the rest off in this situation.
The normal rules, Whit, don't apply to Dustin Johnson. It's Dustin Johnson rules.
When he says he's playing his best golf, or he was playing his best golf heading up to the Masters, he wasn't kidding. If you take a look at where he ranks on the PGA Tour in several key categories, Johnson essentially was the best player on tour prior to that injury. Driving distance, greens and regulation, tee to green, shots gained, or strokes gained rather, fairway proximity, par 5 scoring, you name it, by any metric, Dustin Johnson was the hottest player on the PGA Tour prior to that injury. And Paige, there are a lot of reasons for that. As we send it back to you and Charlie, what kind of things do we look for in Dustin Johnson's game that make him such a great player?
One of the things that stood out a lot in his game is just his ability to control the ball around the greens. And these short irons, the scoring clubs, Charlie, the approach shots have gotten so much better. And with his length off the tee, there's been a lot more opportunities for maybe him than other players in the field.
Yeah, over the last couple of years, he's really been able to control that driver. He went to a cut off the tee. He's still hitting it a long way. But, Paige, you're exactly right. I mean, he gets more wedges than maybe anybody in the game. And when he looked at the stats, when his team looked at the stats, it's like, well, we're outside of like 100, sometimes 150th in proximity to the hole with the wedges. Well, it's pretty easy to figure out if you want to be as good as you can be and you get a lot of wedges, well, let's get really good with the wedges. And all the work that he's done, I think now has really paid off and put him on this phenomenal run that he's on.
So that sounds very common sense, Charlie. He saw a weakness in his game, looked at the stats, figured out a way to improve it. But how did he improve the wedge game?
Yeah, so what he does is he uses a launch monitor, and the monitor will give him random distances, and he just hits the ball those distances. He'll actually do it prior to a PGA Tour event. So we've got a launch monitor in here, so I thought it'd be pretty cool maybe to play the game that he plays. Why don't you maybe spit a few numbers out?
Okay.
Let me see what I can come up with.
I'm going to start easy, Charlie. It's early in the morning, so we'll just go 75 stock. That's the target right now. So 75 yards to start out.
Okay, so I spent some time with DJ about 6 weeks ago. He carries 3 wedges, a pitching wedge, a middle wedge that's around 54, and a lob wedge that's around 60. And so what he's done is he's established what the full shots are. So I'm going to hit at 75, but first thing I'm going to do, Paige, is I'm going to establish what this full lob wedge is. I'm betting it comes in around 90.
So very important to establish first your baseline, your full wedge on each of your wedges that you might have. You got some adrenaline this morning.
I got that one pumped up a little bit, so that's a little bit over 90. So I'm going to have to take, that's at 98, I'm going to have to take a good bit off of that. So I'm going to take maybe 3/4 of this wedge. So if this is a full swing, and this is exactly what DJ does from spending time with him down at Myrtle Beach at his World Junior Golf Championship, If this is a full swing, he's just going to go in here. So let me do that and see if we can dial this down to around 75 yards. It felt pretty good right there, Paige.
Yeah.
So that's what, 72? So
72.
I was three yards off. But
9 feet.
Yeah, so when you have these numbers coming in and you trust that they're accurate, and they are with this technology that we have, it really helps you dial in with your wedge play.
Now, I want to throw something else at you because we want to practice maybe an elevated green where you're not going to be able to see the depth perception of your target. So I want to see 92 yards. 92
yards. Okay, so let's go back to the first one I hit. That was 98. That's a full lob wedge for me.
Okay.
So I'm going to maybe try and take just a little bit off that full one that I had a second ago.
And this is all about the swing. You're not changing the pace at which you're hitting it.
You know what? That's a fabulous point. And trying to hit this ball these distances, I haven't thought one bit about the mechanics of my golf swing. I mean, essentially what I'm doing, it's almost like working out a little math problem. I've got loft, I build up energy. I have to figure out how much energy I have to build up to utilize this loft to have the ball go a specific distance. And the only way I'm going to do it is by trial and error using the technology that's available to me. So we were at 92. All right, that's maybe 7/8 of a live wedge right there.
That's some good math.
So maybe not quite full. All right, so I got that one pretty solid. Let's see if I took a little bit off of it. That's going to be pretty close. So what are we at there?
I love it.
89. So
again,
that gives
9
me
feet.
10, 12, 15 footer. And so the expectations for Dustin Johnson in these numbers is he wants his average distance from, let's say, 90 yards. The average shot, he wants that to be around 15 feet. And that's not his best or his worst, that's the average. And that just takes a lot of repetition, no mechanical thought involved.
And I love the idea of being able to use the launch monitor, but if you do not have a launch monitor at home, something else that works, line up head covers at 40, 50, 60, 70 yards out, and then try to hit it at any distance in between that. So you can still call out the random numbers outside of just that increment.
And finally, maybe gather a shag bag of the balls you actually play with when you're calculating distances. If you're doing it that way, that'll help you because the range balls don't exactly go the same distance as a ball you play with.
A great point, Charlie. Well, I also heard there's a birthday boy today. Whit?
Paige, that is indeed the case. We say happy 28th to Rory McIlroy, already a 4-time major champion. He's already spent 95 weeks as the #1 ranked player in the world and a 4-time member of the European Ryder Cup side. All of that at the tender age of 28. 13 wins on the PGA Tour, 13 wins on the European Tour, a 4-time major champion and a 4-time, as mentioned, European Ryder Cup team member. We had a really fun conversation at about 4:30 this morning in our meeting about Rory McIlroy when he's at his absolute best. And I love this topic because you really can't win or lose. When Rory is at his absolute best, is he the best player in the world?
Well, I mean, right now it's easy to say, well, Dustin Johnson is on his game with this unbelievable run that he's been on. But I'm going to tell you what, folks, I think when Rory has his health and he's putting decent, which the hypothetical is here, is he at his best? I think he's still the guy that is the best player in the world. I think he's still the guy that's shown not only can he win big golf tournaments and major championships, but he can win them by record margins. Now, is that distance between Rory and DJ sort of getting a little bit more narrow? Yeah, I understand that, but I still think for me, Rory's the guy.
We had this conversation maybe a couple weeks ago, Charlie, and I said, wait for DJ to continue to mature through this summer. They have a very similar path in that they both won their first major and then within the year became #1 in the world. So it'll be interesting to see whether Dustin Johnson continues to grow in the trajectory in the same way that Rory did. But why both of them are even in this conversation is because both play the game differently than other players in the PGA Tour. They can hit it with such power and such length off the tee that it transforms the way that we're used to seeing golf played. And I think that's why it's so intriguing to watch.
Wouldn't you agree that one of the biggest differences, one of the biggest steps forward for DJ is the mental side of the game? Athletically, he has no peer on the PGA Tour. Anyone can tell you that. It's the absence of the big miss. It's that big mistake that he was known for, unfortunately, that he seems not to make anymore. Wouldn't you say that's the biggest difference?
I think the entire maturity of his game. I would say that getting the wins that he's now getting where he wasn't getting them in years past has been the transformative difference in his game. I think if you would ask people 4 or 5 years ago who's the most talented player that's underperforming, it would have been Dustin Johnson.
Well, it's certainly been interesting to watch him change the flight on that driver. As soon as he went to that left to right, and I asked him, I said, how'd you do that? And he said, well, I just aimed a little bit farther left and decided I was going to cut it.
I love it.
Which is a Freddie Couples answer.
But
what that's done is that's managed his miss, and that gives him more opportunities with these scoring clubs. And I mean, it's does he occasionally make a strategic error? Yeah, I think those will go away a little bit. My concern for DJ and also for Rory, because they operate at such high speed, is can they stay injury-free for a long time?
Well, let's get to Bailey Mosier, the morning tee sheet, as we continue here on Morning Drive. Bailey?
Good morning. Yes. Well, happy Thursday to everyone at home. Rory McIlroy now 28, Dustin Johnson 32. Hopefully they're both healthy and they give us lots of entertaining golf for many years to come. Well, let's get to the tee sheet. It is Let's Play Golf Week here at Golf Channel. Today is Test Drive Thursday. So coming up throughout this morning's 3-hour show, we have everything that you need to know about getting fit for all 14 clubs in your bag so that you can get out and play your best golf yet, maybe like DJ and Rory. And a big happy birthday it is to Rory McIlroy from all of us here on Morning Drive. It's hard to believe the guy who used to be called Wee Mac is 28 years old today. 4 majors, 21 worldwide titles, and a recently married man. It is good to be Rory, and you can learn to hit it like Rory later this morning. And world number 1 Dustin Johnson, he is back in action for the first time since withdrawing from the Masters. He is looking for his 4th win in as many starts, and he tees off at 7:56 a.m. Eastern Time today. We're going to keep you updated on his opening round at the Wells Fargo all morning long. Morning Drive is with you until 10 a.m. today. Happy Thursday, everyone. We are back right after this short break.